All right, hi everybody. How you doing? This is my second video in this series of videos. It's kind of a talk draft. I don't know if I'm going to use this or not. We'll see. It took me a while to find good lighting. I pulled over before, and what ended up happening was the sun was really coming through. So I do suspect in California they actually do something called cloud seeding to create that because it's unnaturally bright. I mean, we're not, and anyway, I don't even know all that. But anyway, so here's where I want to start. I'm going to be kind of random. I do have a specific point of focus for today. I'd like to talk about synchronicity today, and to help my community understand how to recognize a true synchronicity. In other words, a synchronicity is it's redundant to say true synchronicity because if it's not a synchronicity, if it's not a meaningful coincidence, then it's not a synchronicity. But I'm going to get into that later. Stay with me. Stay with me. But anyway, 2 days ago, my goal was to record my second video and just turn on the camera and start talking, right? Based upon what I liked about the previous video, I gave it about a 60%. Um, the lighting was okay. The sound was wonky, wasn't great. You could hear me, but you really had to strain to hear me. So now, instead of putting my camera on the heating vent in my car, I'm holding it up so that hopefully the microphone on my phone picks it up. But anyway, so I had, like last time, just kind of a vague roadmap of topics that I wanted to cover, right? I've been having some car trouble lately that I've solved, which kind of brought me to the conclusion that the topic should be synchronicity. So let's dive into that. Let's go. There was a genuine, true synchronicity that happened, and I'm not making an appeal to authority, but I've read some Carl Jung, so I have a good idea of what a synchronicity is and a good idea of what he meant by it. So I think my take on all of that matters. So here's what happened. Yesterday, for a couple of hours, I ended up at the Los Feliz Library, which is a branch library of the Los Angeles Library. Why did I end up there? Well, because I had car trouble, for one thing. And I believe a true synchronicity happened yesterday, that the universe brought me to that location for a reason. So I have a car jump starter, and I also have a like a car charger that I can charge the battery. And even with all that, the car wouldn't start, right? Um, Suffice to say, I was able to solve the problem. I don't need to go into all the details of that. Um, Yesterday, I'm pretty sure I've solved the problem. In other words, that I just let the car idle for a while, and I think it just needed to relearn uh, the idle speed because California is having these temperature fluctuations. It was really hot today, so the car was a little wonky in terms of how it was performing, but basically it's okay. For several days in a row, at pretty much the same time in the evening when the temperature was starting to really drop, and it gets really cold. Don't let anybody fool you. We have winters in California. We don't have snow, but we do have winters, and it gets really cold here at night. Uh, I would get off the freeway and car would just die in traffic. And I was able to start it. Right, it was the same pattern for like 3 nights in a row. I said, okay, something's wrong. So I recharged the battery, and it's still that day. It finally wouldn't start, and um, so I had no choice but to take my battery charger and my jump starter to the library. So I got there, recharged all of that. I was there for like 3.5 hours, right? And so I kind of sat there for a while, messed around on my phone for a bit. And I said, okay, I'm all keyed up. Now, keep in mind that I meditate, and I've been um, really refining my meditation process. And I don't want to go into, for the sake of clarity, I don't want to go too much into what I'm actually doing in terms of meditation, the new course that I'm taking in meditation, but it's definitely working. And I wanted to remain in the flow of that, if that makes sense, to stay relaxed. But because of this, I was all keyed up. I was like, man, this car, I bought this car like 6 months ago. I've had some problems here and there, but it's been a good car. It is a good car, by the way, because I solved the problem. It's not dying in traffic anymore. I'm pretty sure that what I did as far as letting it warm up, letting it relearn the idle temperature and all of that, and pulling over when it's getting wonky, blah, blah, blah. I'm pretty sure it solved the problem. So it's not going to die in traffic. And it started today just fine. Everything's fine now. Um, so I got to the library and I went back with the charger, the jump starter, and also figured out, I think, why the jump starter didn't work either. There's a little trick to it, and it worked. Eventually, after I recharged that, it did work when I recharged the jump starter. Anyway, why is that a synchronicity? The universe brought me there. Let's really dive into this. So I got the idea sitting in the library, uh, wanting to stay in that flow state and to kind of bring my nerves down because I was real anxious. And even though I'm pretty good now at talking myself down, it's one of those things. I think it's just a physical thing you can't avoid, where it's like your nerve endings are, because it's like I'm nervous. I don't want to have $1,000 repair bill. I hope this is just some stupid thing that I got to do with the car. So anyway, the Los Feliz Library, they have like a section devoted to like spiritual books and meditation, right? So I said, okay, I'm just going to find a book and start reading it. Keep hopefully there's some idea that will keep me calm, right? And will calm me down. Eventually, I'll be back into that flow state that the meditation practice that I'm doing helped me to get to. Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, which I've read before, was already there. And right next to that, there was a book, another Eckhart Tolle book called like The Promise of the Power of Now or something like that, or Projecting the Power of Now, where it's like, it's basically the same book. It's just rephrased, or it's kind of a supplement. So I picked up that book. It was like 130 pages, and I managed to read the whole thing in one sitting there waiting for my devices to charge for 3.5 hours. Most of what he was talking about actually translated with the meditation practice that I'm using. But I was eventually able to kind of calm myself down and return to that flow state. Right in the nick of time, the library closed at 8 o'clock. I kept looking because it was like just a couple scotias away, the jump starter from being fully charged. And I was like, right, it was like 7:58. It was like, boom. It was like, okay. The universe brought me here for a reason, because you know what? I myself am learning, just like the car has to relearn idle speed, right? In different types of weather conditions, and different types of road conditions in general. I myself am learning to really see when something like that goes wrong, to see it as a blessing. Why? Spiritual teachers always tell you that because it propels you, the things that you don't want to happen, like the car breaking down, propel you to the things that you do want. You want a car that is reliable, right? And so I was able to appreciate the car breaking down and that particular incident. And I do believe that what happened yesterday was a meaningful coincidence that is actually a true synchronicity. That's, you don't even have to say it's a true synchronicity, because it is a synchronicity. The universe is on my side. It's kind of like, to put it in my own words, both the devil and God are in the details at the same time. But it's deeper than that. That's why I'm calling it a meaningful coincidence. It's not just all of these things kind of led up and it's like, whoa, that moment, right? It's much deeper than that. So let me, in fact, I'm being kind of cautious now. I'm not a mechanic, but I know this is working. I want to make sure that the car doesn't do anything wonky. It's so far so good. Keeping my fingers crossed about it. So far so good. But I also wanted to cover in this video what is not a synchronicity and not make this negative, but and that's part of what I wanted to cover here in terms of the mind-heart coherence, because I do believe in the Maharishi effect. And I just learned recently uh, what that phenomenon is called. I know what it is, where, like, if you have, let's say, 40 unrelated people who focus on one thing, that they can create that particular, uh, like, in other words, the specific thing is a group of people prayed to reduce crime, and it actually worked. Crime rates went down. That's the Maharishi effect. And I believe in it. In a similar way, I think this is really a problem with too many people that don't have mind heart coherence. There's a million ways to put it. You can say mind body coherence. And Eckhart Tolle, some of what he was talking about in this book, very similar, very similar concepts. Because there's a real problem with that of people who are not mind heart coherent, whose the things that they're the way that they're expressing themselves doesn't match how they actually feel. Now, mind you, we can't always do that. We don't always have that luxury, but that is optimal. That the things we're saying have to reflect how we feel. There's a million reasons why that happens, but I'm glad that's out there in the universe. And I think the way I would, um, which is why I'm focusing on synchronicity today, a false synchronicity is a coincidence that is just a coincidence, right? So where do I want to go with this? Where do I want to go with this? So an individual who sees every pattern as being significant tends to be, in my experience, someone who doesn't get it, is the polite way I can say it. They may know the idea of synchronicity, but they don't really get it, in other words, because every pattern is not significant. Some are. Every um, every coincidence is not significant. Some are, right? A very sick person believes that every coincidence is significant. A sick person believes that every pattern is significant, and that every pattern leads to a synchronicity. A sick person believes that every novel occurrence is meaningful, and that every novel occurrence is trying to make sure I stay close to the mic so the sound doesn't get wonky with these. Yeah, we're just starting out. Hey, I'm letting it all hang out here. I don't care. We're going to refine this as we go to develop my particular YouTube presence, right? But in the beginning, I'm just kind of doing this as a talk draft to iterate this. But anyway, a sick person believes that every novel occurrence is meaningful. And the best way to describe it, I got to go here with this. Ready? And if you're with me, then you're with me. There was a movie in the 70s called The Gumball Rally, and it was a terrible movie. Now, most people can kind of discern all this stuff and say, okay, there's a terrible movie called The Gumball Rally. Maybe if my mind is like ball bearings in a food processor, blah, 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 then maybe I'm doing something wrong, right? And I got to apply something differently. That's where I want to segue to people who know about Carl Jung and know about synchronicity know that he worked with Sigmund Freud for a long time and they had a falling out. And I don't know enough about all of that to really say with authority what it was. Um, but they did have a disagreement and a falling out. But you know what? Look, hear me about something. I'm a credible person. Sigmund Freud said that sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. And he was right about that. You can take those words and rely upon them always and put them in your heart and put them in your mind and be mind heart coherent. Not saying that to be funny. Right? Doesn't that sum it up? There's other things that Sigmund Freud said that are true, that knowing that that's actually true, that sometimes the crazy people are actually saying, again, were truer words ever spoken? That is true. Sometimes the crazy people are actually saying and vice versa. I don't remember how he put it, but sometimes that's not true. And I think that's why, in general, we have to have a sense of why there was a falling out there. It may be very complex why there was a falling out between Jung and Freud. But anyway, I hope I haven't lost anybody, because I don't want to overly rationalize or overly intellectualize anything. But that's it. That's it. Knowing what a true synchronicity is and is knowing what a synchronicity is not. And the mindset of people that believe that they understand that, you have to recognize when it's not. And when you're dealing with a sick mind, who, again, the best metaphor for that is ball bearings in a food processor. There was some movie review where and I don't even remember the movie now, that they used that phrase, right? If you're part of my team, my extended community, extended, you get this kind of stuff, right? And you don't think about it. In other words, it's like an endless game of round robin, which is not a skill game. It's just a stupid game. Okay. I think I said what I need to say. Now, I don't want to be too negative about anything, but it's real. It was a significant occurrence. It was God. It was the universe. It was the Holy Spirit guiding me, guiding my hand throughout all of that. And I don't think that, I think in other words, there you go. I've given you enough detail of that narrative to kind of say, yeah, it was God. It was God in the details and the devil in the details. The devil made my car do that, but it was okay. It was all right. God's guiding my hand in a very gentle way. The Holy Spirit guided me to the library and got me, yes, to read that book, but to see all of that. To see what I'm saying? It was a true synchronicity that created that. Debating on whether I want to add a little tag to that, but I think I've given enough detail to kind of make the point about that. I mean, there's other details that I think will kind of really hammer the point home as far as why everything in the universe led me to those 3 hours, that moment of saying that God is in the details, that God loves me, and there is a God, and it's okay. But you know what? There's a couple other things I wanted to cover, but I feel like the gist of what I wanted to cover, I've covered. But other than to say that we recently had, I'll close it here. We recently had an 11/11 event that is, I think the consensus there, I talked about this in my previous video. The consensus amongst the collective is that we're being called to love and to open our hearts in ways that have been closed down. And I'm applying that myself because I definitely believe that that's what's happening. Winter solstice is coming up. And here's what I want to say about that. I personally am not a pagan. I am a Christian, but I believe that if Jesus were around today, I wouldn't say that he would be liberal or conservative, but he would be an intellectual, and he would be someone seeking discernment and seeking truth. Because Christians, the spirit of Christianity leads us to see that the center of a Christian life is the search for truth. So what I'm saying is, even though pagans, I think, are misguided sometimes in their worship of nature, they're not wrong. And we should listen. We should listen to other diverse viewpoints. And the pagan community celebrates a holiday called Yule, which has kind of made its way into Christmas, and that's the spirit of Christmas, et cetera, et cetera. Right. Well, I would agree with that. And the pagan community, the Wicca community, puts much significance upon the winter solstice, and I think with good reason, to be honest with you. And I think Christians can learn that because it tells us that when you really appreciate, in other words, the phenomena of the longest evening of the year leading to slowly increasing sunlight, daylight, right? It gives credence to a belief that there is an intelligent design to the universe, that there is a God. I think I think that's a good I think I can leave it at that for now for this video because I feel like I covered everything. I covered the spirit of what I wanted to cover here today. And I think that's a good way to close it. And I'm going to talk more about the winter solstice in future videos and why I think that whatever is significant about it is something that we need to pay attention to, regardless of whether you're Christian or pagan or whatever. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it at that. Thank you for watching this video to the end. And if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe and please like this video. Thank you.